It was down in old Virginia.
Hello, brothers, and welcome to episode 2 of the Theta Omicron Old Gold Pikecast. I'm your host, Dave Pittman. This is me in about 1982 or 83, sporting a very unfortunate center part and a what was cool at the time knit tie. Now, I've heard that 80s styles are making a comeback, but dear God, I hope not. We have a great crew lined up for you today, and I want to make sure that you are able to join in all of the fun with us. So if you are on Twitter, tweet along at Theta O Pikecast. You can also tag the Alumni Association at Theta O Pikes, and the actives are at ISU Pike. If you missed mine at the beginning when I was showing my beautiful photo there, I am at the Social Pit. You can also chat along with us in a little window there in your Pikecast panel and send questions to us. Jason will be monitoring the question board and we'll answer those or filter them our way if we can and get answers at the end of it. I also encourage you to email us at Theta Omicron Alumni Association at gmail.com, and of course, stay connected on the Theta Omicron Alumni Association page on Facebook. So first, a quick scholarship update. On episode 1, I mentioned that I was in the process of establishing the Pi Kappa Alpha Developing Leaders Scholarship in memory of Jeff Osborne. He was a good friend of mine and a mentor. Well, I did go forward with that. Tom Gray joined me, and we have funded and set up this scholarship. And several other brothers have joined us now. And it is going to be awarded for the first time this coming April. There will be more information, so the brothers in the chapter know how to apply for that. Al Perone will be on the committee that helps select the recipient, along with people from the ISU Foundation. I do want to encourage you, if you were inspired, as I was, by a fellow brother's leadership at any point during your collegiate career or since then, you can join us in helping fund this scholarship. We are actively seeking contributions right now, and we will match dollar for dollar up to the first $40,000 of all new contributions. So if you're not very good with math, like I wasn't, being an English major, I can still figure that out. That's $80,000 if we get that. Everybody contributes up and then we match it. So help us make this a phenomenal scholarship. If you want more information, you can contact me there, my email or my phone number. Now, our first guest is, I'm very honored to have Brent Phillips, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for the International Fraternity. Brent graduated from the University of Missouri, where he was a Spring '87 initiate of the Alpha Nu chapter. Prior to his current role with the fraternity, Brent spent 23 years in the U.S. Navy, retiring at the rank of commander. His Twitter handle is @PikeStory. Look at that, even with his social name, he's always marketing. Great job, Brent. Brent, I really want to welcome you to the Theta Omicron Pikecast, and thank you for your service.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David.
So tell us a little bit about what's in store for the big anniversary this year.
Well, as everybody knows, this is our big year, and we're officially into it. International President Chad Williams gave us the preview at the Academy in Memphis this summer and officially opened up a full year of sesquicentennial celebrations at the Chapter Executives Conference in Memphis. So we are in celebration mode, and it's really kind of cool. There's a link at the bottom of the slide where you can go to pikes.org/150, and there's all kinds of information about how to plan an event. More importantly, all of the events that are going on around the country. And last count, we're north of 25 celebrations that are running throughout the year. There's a good concentration on Founders Day or around Founders Day weekend for sure. But we have Pikes in San Diego, Montana, Albuquerque. The celebration in Albuquerque surrounds their 4th annual kickball game. So I say that by way of, these are family events. If very few of us are very close to the school or the location where we graduated. So we shouldn't feel left out. We should be able to go to the link on the website and scan through and see if there's a celebration going in your area. And I really encourage you to make the connection and walk in, enjoy yourself, celebrate 150 years, and let the celebration go on.
Excellent. So again, that website is pikes.org/150. And I would expect that the convention this year will be a little extra special since it's tied in with the 150th celebration. So Brent, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So this year's convention will be happening July 25th to 29th in Richmond, Virginia. It also includes a day trip over to Charlottesville. So, we'll make a trek right there to 47 West Range. And if you have never walked the grounds of Mr. Jefferson's academical village, it's really something to see. It's a beautiful setting. The room is still occupied by a member of Pi Kappa Alpha, and it should be an amazing experience. And all Pikes, not just undergraduates, even though undergraduates are going to handle some of the legislation of the fraternity, this is the business meeting of the fraternity. There'll be great programming that'll go on as far as chapter operations, alumni events. There are even side reunions that we're starting to get whispers of those occurring as well. So I'd like to extend an open invitation, whether you're 18 or 80, come join us in Richmond, Virginia. It's also the chance where our chapters will be recognized with international awards, and I don't think that Theta Omicron is a stranger to any of those.
And let me see, is there anything else here on the core events that we need to cover that you haven't?
Yeah, as we go through these events, and it really is pretty interesting to see the scope and range of these things as they're coming in. They're running, like I said, I mentioned the kickball event, but formal banquets, happy hours, all of it. There's also on Founders Day, which is a Thursday this year, Justin Buck and the entire Supreme Council, and I'm hearing rumors of Dr. Reel making an appearance as well. We'll be doing a Facebook Live event from 47 West Range. So I'd encourage you all to keep an eye for the links, but on the Pi Kappa Alpha Facebook page, we'll be sharing information to how you can connect with that Facebook Live event. And then at all of our Pike University events, there are Friday night gatherings of alumni and specifically volunteers for the fraternity as well. And that's a nice gathering point. So keep an eye, check out the current events. Don't feel like if you're not there in Terre Haute or the great state of Indiana that you're going to be left out. They really are running coast to coast.
Great. And for everyone watching or watching this on replay, we will be sending out this whole deck, and the links are hyperlinked in there, so you can click on, check out the event listing, and it'll take you right to the page. And of course, remember pikes.org/150. So Brent, I want to thank you very much for coming on and joining us and talking about all the celebrations. I know you're almost under the weather, so we appreciate you sticking it out and chatting with us for a bit.
Hey, David, can I ask you one final thing for the listeners out there? I know you guys are spread across the United States and in some cases the world. One way that we're tracking where you all are is if you can take a picture of yourself in a location, all the better, with a Pike flag or a 150 banner, and just hashtag it, Pike 150. And we're scooping all of those up and hopefully turn those into a pretty cool presentation at convention.
All right.
That's it. Thank you for having me, David. I'm honored.
Great. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and we hope to have you back for another session. And now I'd like to welcome Jason Hill, who is the president of our Theta O Alumni Association. You can see his Twitter handle there at JSN Hill, short for Jason, as you can figure out. And Jason, I want you to tell us about some of the things that Theta O Brothers, some of the ways that we can celebrate the fraternity's 150th.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your giving me the opportunity, David. One of the things that we have coming up is our Founders Day celebration. And so you may remember this is going to be our second annual event. We are lucky enough that the chapter's founding coincides really well with the founding of the International Fraternity. And so we are going to be celebrating on Saturday, March 3rd, one event in multiple locations. We have two of these locations now. The first one is going to be in the North Indianapolis suburbs, right about the intersection of Noblesville, Carmel, and Westfield at Scotty's Brew House. It's the same place we had the event last year. It'll be at 6:30 on Saturday, March 3rd. And then we'll also have an event at the same time at 7th and Elm, which is the restaurant pretty much across the street from the Pike House in Terre Haute. And if there are other opportunities for us to have these, we would love to have more locations where we will also have these events. So if you are somewhere else in a different part of Indiana or even outside of Indiana, but feel that there are other brothers who might be able to get together with you to celebrate this, we would love to loop you in as well and have this in more locations so that more people get the opportunity to attend. So at this point, we know Saturday, March 3rd at 6:30 in Noblesville, Indiana, as well as in Terre Haute. And we'll be posting these as well to all of the various social media sites, our LinkedIn page, Facebook, as well as on Twitter. And so we'll begin to get these words out. We've begun placing some phone calls to brothers in the areas of those two events, but would love to loop in as many as possible. And then while I have everyone's attention, just want to also tee up homecoming, which will be our super homecoming celebration. We do this once every 5 years to coincide with the major 5-year anniversaries of the chapter. So this will be our 40th anniversary coming up. And homecoming for 2018 is October 13th. And if you want the greatest opportunity to see the most alumni, it's to come to Super Homecoming. So I would encourage you, go ahead and mark that in your calendars. On Friday will be the trike event. Saturday morning, you'll get up and it'll be the parade, which is always great to see what the Pikes do with their float. And then Tent City out at the football game. And then we'll have events throughout the weekend for Pikes because this is Super Homecoming. So again, that's October 13th, 2018, and it'll be on us before we know it. So if you would like to participate in the planning of that, we would love to get as many ideas as possible to ensure that this is a success. Just reach out to me and we will put this group together. Don't feel like you have to be in Terre Haute or Indianapolis to participate. We would love to get as many ideas as possible. And again, bring your family. You will be shocked at all that's going on at Indiana State and especially at the Pike House. So if you haven't been back in a while, please go ahead and mark your calendar and we will ensure that we have a successful weekend. And if you need help with hotels or where to have dinner with some of the guys from your era, then reach out to us and we would love to help in any way that we can.
Excellent. Super Homecoming, keep that on your calendar. 40 years. We have a guy that's going to be coming up a little bit later in the episode that remembers that 40 years ago. And so looking forward to chatting with Terry Cunningham. Jason, thank you again for talking with us about Founders Day and Super Homecoming. Look forward to both of those things. So next up, another exciting event that's coming up soon is a campus-wide Spring Week, I should say. Here to talk with us about that is Drew Lima. Drew is a junior at ISU and he's a member of the Delta Iota Associate Class. He currently serves as the chapter's Vice President of External Affairs. Drew, welcome to the Pikecast.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
So what can you tell us about Spring Week?
Okay, Spring Week is kind of like homecoming, but for the spring. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different events that we have going on. One of the things that's really heavily hit on is the blood drive. So the blood drive, always giving blood. That's a good thing. Indiana State's been always it's been known for helping other people out through community service, and blood drives are out there. And one of the kind of prerequisites for Spring Week is that 40% of all chapters have to give blood to get points. Now, Pike is the biggest fraternity on campus with over 100 men. and I believe SIGEP is the second tier there with 70 guys. So we have a lot more guys that we go out and give blood for, and we always hit that mark. So I don't think I've ever seen a year that we have not hit that 40% mark of our guys getting blood. So it's always good to get out there and not only just do it for the points, but also to do it to help people out too. So that top picture up there, it's a great picture. It's one of my favorite events. It's Battleship. So Battleship, as you can see, there's canoes. They put it inside the pool in the arena, and you try to sink the other canoe with buckets of water. You have buckets that you hold on to, and you throw water into the other people's canoes. So it's a great event there. Probably one of my favorite events. I've done it the past 2 years. So it's definitely a fun event with that. We won it 2 years ago, and I think came in third last year. So there's 3 people in the canoe and then 2 people on the outside of the pool there throwing in water. Now the triathlon, you have swimming, you have running, you have free throw shooting, and then you have some mind games as well. So some different aspects there that you don't really, you wouldn't normally have in a triathlon. It's not an actual triathlon. It's a lot, smaller of a scale there. But they have it's kind of a new event that they've started in the past 2 years. So, and we won that the past 2 years. So now tandem is a big event. It's the big event of homecoming. And we were paired with AOPI this year, and that's all throughout homecoming. So AOPI is our pairing throughout the entire homecoming. We rely on them just as much as they rely on us. So tandem's already, gotten up and started their practices in the rec center, and so done a really good job already, getting out there and going for gold. So, and the last event is Remix. Remix is a dance / lip syncing competition. It's a really fun event to go and see. You'd see some people that you normally wouldn't see out there, dancing around on stage. So some fraternity brothers, that you wouldn't normally see up there dancing. So it's kind of fun. We have some guys that are working on it, and actually the spring week, they have a theme each year for spring week, and the theme this year is 90s. So we'll be looking to do some songs from the 90s for Remix this year. So.
Very good. I remember the 90s. I was a pretty good dancer in the 90s. Not so sure about now, but I always then. Now, Drew, I understand you also spent part of your winter break on a service trip with some of the other Pikes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yes.
So a couple of us, 15 of us actually, went down to the Florida Keys and helped out at the Boy Scout base down there, it's the High Adventure base, the sea base, in the Summerlin Key. And they, Florida had been hit by the hurricane, pretty bad, Hurricane Irma. And even though it had been a couple months since that had, rolled through, there's still a lot of damage. As you can see, we were picking up a lot of everything, sweeping up the road. We had a bunch of debris that was still, out on the roads, and it was still pretty damaged down there. So they had a lot of stuff for us to do. We spent a couple days on the main island. But we actually got to go out for, I believe it was 3 nights and 4 days onto a remote island called Big Munson Island. So it's a couple miles offshore. There is nobody lives out there really. It's camping. So we camped out there. As you can see, we kind of roughed it over there in the left picture on the left there. As you can see us all, we were in that picture specifically. We were clearing out a pathway for the kayaks to be able to go out to the mangrove maze. The mangrove maze was a huge part of that project. It's on the inside of the island there, so that whenever Boy Scouts go down there, they can go and go through that mangrove maze. Now there's a lot of downed trees in there, so we were able to get in there and cut up those trees. And not sure it's probably the safest thing, getting on a kayak and using a handsaw there, but we were out there doing that, so it was a good time. On the picture on the right there, you can see we actually went out to snorkel on the one of the last days out there, so we were able to see some pretty cool things. We saw a couple sharks. We saw a bonnethead shark when we were out there snorkeling, and then when we were out kayaking on the island, we actually saw I think it was 3 nurse sharks and a barracuda. So definitely a fun trip. So and we're looking to do another trip in over this summer in New Mexico. So
Excellent. That's a great trip indeed. And Drew, I want to thank you and all the brothers who gave up some of their personal time over the holiday to participate in this very honorable project. You guys are all another positive example of the ideals of Theta Omicron. So thank you very much. Now, before I let you go, though, I do have to ask you about that shirt you've got.
Yeah, so these are our new jerseys. Shout out to Doc Clausen helping us out here. He helped us, make sure it's all possible. These are the brand new PIKE jerseys that we have for the chapter. So they're pretty cool. I was able to help in the designing of them, and we actually have a basketball game tonight. So we play Theta Chi. So looking to get that W, that first W of the year. So
yeah, great. Go kick some Theta Chi butt. Then Drew, thank you very much for joining. Next up, we have a guest who is not on video. He's actually slipping out of a class right now. He did get approval, so don't cut him some slack here. Brandon Baisden is going to be joining us by phone, and he's going to talk with us about the Alumni Brothers of the Month. So Brandon, I did want to just say a couple of other things before I turn it over to you. I'm really, really proud of this program that you've started. It really exemplifies and amplifies the high standards of Theta O. And Brandon was, if you didn't know Brandon, he was a 2004 Gamma Iota class associate. And he went on to serve as Rush Chair, Homecoming Chair, and the IFC Vice President. After graduation, he taught for 2 years, then started working for the Indiana Department of Child Services. Last year, he moved to North Carolina, where he is now serving as the chapter advisor of PIKES for the Lambda Phi chapter at UNC Wilmington. And it was a couple of years ago that Brandon started this Military Brother of the Month feature on Facebook. And that's where we got connected on this. I'm a big supporter of the military, and I think this is just such a cool program. So Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us about this month's Military Brother of the Month.
Thank you, David. So this month we're featured Dan Johnson. Some of you may know him. He's from the Alpha Iota class. He entered the Marine Corps in June of '86. He was a corporal and a field radio operator. He did serve in Saudi Arabia and was attached to the 2nd Marine Division for the operations of Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So each month I pick a new military brother and feature it up on our Facebook page.
And this was a really excellent idea. And when we showed this Military Brother of the Month in the first episode of Pikecast, several of the guys responded and said, hey, this is really cool. Can you also tell us about what some of our other alumni brothers are doing? So we decided to branch it out a little bit this month. And Brandon, you've got another brother for us.
I sure do. So our next brother is Andrew Bowman. He attended ISU from 2009 to 2013, and he's a member of the Gamma Phi class. While he was an undergrad, he served as our community service chair and scholarship chair. Upon graduating cum laude with a degree in recreation and sports management, Andrew began working with the Boy Scouts of America out of Indianapolis. Afterwards, in 2014, he got married to his wife now, Megan, who is an Alpha Phi from ISU. They currently now took over their parents' business as Bowman's Pro Turf, and they are responsible for the grounds now at ISU.
And if you have not had the opportunity to see the grounds, please do whatever you can to get back on campus and see it. It's phenomenal. And Andrew, we thank you very much for all of the work that you put in to keep it looking spectacular all year round. So thank you. And Brandon, thanks to you again for slipping out of class. I'll let you go back now and keep on learning, keep on learning. If you have any suggestion of a brother that you would like us to feature on a future Pikecast, please send it to Brandon or me. You can reach us on Facebook, or you can email me there at davidpittmanmarketing@gmail.com. And with that, we are on to the alpha of alphas. We've all heard about alpha males. They're the ones that everyone else follows and looks up to. I'm extremely honored tonight to bring you the alpha of alphas, Terry Cunningham, Theta Omicron's very first SMC. His leadership shined the bright light on the path which we have all followed. Terry graduated from ISU in 1979 and went on to work for the Terre Haute Housing Authority the very next day. He's enjoyed a long career in the affordable housing industry since then and is currently the executive director of the Kingsport, Tennessee Housing and Redevelopment Authority. He and Brenda, his wife of 32 years, have 3 children. So Terry, welcome to Pikecast.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Jason, and I appreciate you guys going to all the efforts to put these types of events together. I think it's a real opportunity to connect with everybody, and so like I said, I really appreciate all you've done.
Well, it's us that appreciate everything that you have done and did to get this all started. So let's talk a little bit about the olden days. Who are some of the people who were influential in helping you and encouraging you to join Pike?
Well, I just remember being invited over to a meeting at the Link building at the Union, the Link section of the old Union building, and it was with a guy named Dave Dyson, who was working for the National Fraternity at, he was a graduate of Auburn, and Keith Ketchman, who was a graduate of the University of Florida, who was also another Pike National staff member, and Ed Pease. And nobody had, I think it was Shelley Sutherland and Linda Eldred who had kind of given them my name as somebody that they should talk to. And I didn't have a whole lot of understanding of what the meeting was about, but because Shelley and Linda had suggested that I meet with these guys, I said, okay, I'll come over and talk to them. You know, I'll waste their time. And when we showed up, they, you know, they said that they were starting this new fraternity on campus. And I said, well, I was a resident assistant, and you guys probably aren't interested in me. And it was Ed. It was like his eyes lit up, and he goes, no, we're interested. We would love to talk to you about it. He said, why did you think because you're a resident assistant that fraternities wouldn't be interested in you? I said, because we do battle with all their drunk pledges at the beginning of the scene. He says, well, that's just the type of thing we're going to try and change. And the rest is history.
Yeah. So what was some of the original appeal for you? Why did you decide that you wanted to come on and help found an organization like this?
Well, it was always in the back of my mind, and I had good friends that were in fraternities. Mike Alley, who's a Phi Delta and recent Board of Trustee member at Indiana State, was my resident assistant when I was a freshman, and Mike had pledged Phi Delta when he was a junior, and I had talked to him about it some, and it was the thing that really appealed to me was when particularly Ed talked about the reasoning why Indiana State had been interested in a fraternity being added to the number of national fraternities represented on campus, is because they weren't happy with the way things were going. At that time, the fraternities had a lower graduation rate than the main population of the student body. And that was actually contrary to what happened at most campuses. At most universities, if you're in a fraternity or sorority, you have more of a likelihood to graduate than the main student population. And at Indiana State, it was among the fraternities, it was just the opposite. And it seemed like the fraternities were, not emphasizing the things that you needed to do to be a successful student, and they were looking for a national fraternity that had a different set of ideas and interest. And Phi Kappa Alpha, really puts that emphasis on scholarship, and that's one of the things is, in fact, in that first group of associates in the Alpha class, we probably started out with a grade point average above 3.0, which was significantly higher than any of the fraternities at that time.
Yeah. So let's talk about who some of those were. I know some of the fraternities that were on campus back in our day are not around anymore. So who were some of the biggest competitors? Well, I shouldn't call them competitors, I guess, because I don't think they were in the same league, but who were some of the major fraternities then, and who were some of the top sororities?
Some of our main competition was ATO, which up until us seemed to be that got most of the better candidates from the Terre Haute area. Lambda Chi, Phi Delta, you guys mentioned they're having a basketball game at Theta Chi. They were around back in those days, but there's been so many added. You'd have to talk to Drew and the undergrads as to who their competition is nowadays.
Yeah. And how about sororities?
Well, the sororities were, they were really interested in and very supportive of our initial efforts. When we started out, we didn't have a house, so we used one of the formal lounges in the Union building to have receptions. Our punch and cookie receptions, and a number of the girls from sororities would get all dressed up and help host those for us. And we had a number of Chi Omegas, Gamma Phis, AO Pis, WPs would be upset with me if I didn't mention Zetas. And I have to say that the Zetas were the conduit for Al Perone, Super Pike. And he was a little brother to the Zeta chapter, and they had highly recommended him to us when we were getting started.
Great. Well, what were some of your proudest moments as you think back?
Well, I think just the fact that, we were able to participate in so many of the events. That first homecoming, it was a major accomplishment for us to participate in the trike race. I think I personally put down the money to buy the trike that we bought off another chapter, and we quickly realized that it was the reason they had made it available to us to buy. The axle was all messed up, but fortunately we had some mechanics in the chapter that repaired it and got it operating for us. I remember the very first function that we kind of showed up together as a group was a Panhellenic meeting in the spring of 1978, and almost every one of us was over 6 foot tall except for Dean Lehman, and it was a different experience because when we all stood up and they introduced us, there were a whole bunch of whistles and woohoos, and it was interesting just to see how well received we were. And it didn't hurt that Bob Heaton was there with us either. But our chapter was gaining recognition and organization all during the 78, 79 year, and that's when Indiana State had its famous basketball run. And so I can remember a lot of times just going to the basketball games and us all sitting together, and every now and then doing a pike cheer and throwing the wads of the confetti toilet paper up in the air, and somebody hit a big shot, and it was just a really fun and exciting time to be around campus and Pi Kappa Alpha, and we had a really good time, and all the efforts of getting to know people like Ed Pease and Shelley Sutherland who was over IFC and Panhellenic Council for the university, and I think that homecoming, that 1978, we got Bob Heaton. He was the homecoming king, or whatever the title is now. And for us not to have even been in existence the previous year, and participating and being involved in things, those were some really fun times, and ones that we were really proud of.
And some of the guys who weren't even born at that point in time, if they don't know, Bobby Heaton was one of the guys who nailed some of those big time shots for the 78, 79 Sycamores in basketball.
Oh, that shot at New Mexico State.
Yeah.
That's a 56-foot shot.
Yeah. Well, tell me about, you mentioned the fun that you had with that first trike. So what were some of the other difficulties that you faced in the early days?
Well, it was trying to differentiate our brand a little bit. And a lot of people said, what do you guys, where does your fraternity meet? You don't have a house. And that was one of my first lessons in dealing with Ed Pease, is that there are no problems or challenges, they're just opportunities. And so we just had to figure out in retrospect, you're looking back on it, most of the fraternity houses at that time were really in bad shape, and they were probably money pits. And what they've got on campus now with the grounds is, tremendous compared to anything that any other fraternities had at that time. And so the fact that we didn't have a house, some people looked at it as a problem or a deficit, but it actually, in retrospect, not having the expense of a house around our necks at that time probably helped us in a lot of ways. And the other thing is that it kept us on campus where our prospective members were, and because the area of town where the fraternities were located off campus was a good little ways away from the main campus. And so one of the things that Pease and Ed emphasized to us was that you want to be close to where your prospective members are, and where you can be around each other. And that's where we ended up with, seemed like we had all the people living in Lincoln Quad, and the guys that lived in Sanderson, and we had a crowd over in Rhodes and Cromwell, and what was perceived by some people to be a disadvantage actually worked to our advantage, because, and we recruited all the time. I mean, we never really stopped rush. As soon as one pledge class was established, we were working on the next one. And Ed was relentless in just keeping nudging us and reminding us. And I mean, David, I can remember when you were president and you would hide from Ed by not taking his phone calls.
No, that's not true.
He would send me down to your suite at Lincoln to find you.
Not true.
Okay.
All right, so
Didn't mean to let that one
moving
slip.
right along. No, TC, over the last 40 years, Pike at Indiana State has changed significantly in many ways. You know, the fabulous house is certainly the most noticeable, but it's also the same in many ways as well. What do you see as the future of Pikes at State?
Well, I'm just going to say thank you and congratulations to all the guys that have followed after the Alpha class. Everybody seems to have understood the importance of pursuing excellence, and whether it be academically or athletically or in community service or in those types of things. I mean, we've had an excellent example in people like Ed Pease and Al Perone and Dave Stowe and all the other guys that have been active as advisors and alumni. And I think, I think somebody earlier while we were getting ready for the call said something about that we're up to 1,600 alumni. In 40 years ago, I would have never thought that, that those kind of numbers would have been possible, and or that I would even still be concerned about, involved with what was going on with the active chapter there in Indiana State. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who's kept plugging away at the dream and making it come true. I saw something, and earlier you recognized Brandon for the Pike Military Brother of the Month. I just want to say I really enjoyed seeing Kenny Hull's son recognized in one of the previous editions of that, and it's really interesting and I think one of the things that Ed Pease talks about, some of the proudest things he talks about are the legacies, and how, when he knew somebody's dad and they're an undergrad and going on to be successful alumni. And I think that's those types of situations is what makes a proud future for us.
Yeah. No, I know, parting shot for you here. You've continued to be involved throughout these 40 years. What can other alumni do to contribute to the Pike legacy?
I think the main thing to do is to stay in contact. Let people know where we can get hold of you, phone numbers, emails, Twitter accounts, whatever the way that is possible. And then the other thing is contribute either your time, your money, or your goodwill towards us. I really commend you guys for setting the Jeff Osborne scholarship up. I saw those posts on Facebook, and Ozzy was a great guy and a good friend, and I feel for his wife and children, and especially the circumstances were so unexpected. But I thank you guys for remembering his legacy in that type of manner, and encourage everybody to contribute to that fund if all possible, and contribute to the Alumni Association through the foundation for the house, some people have really gone to bat in big ways on that, and we need to back those guys up with contributions as best we can.
Mm-hmm. All right, Terry, I want to thank you again very much for being our honored guest, and thank you especially for everything you did to help build the wonderful foundation of Theta Omicron at Indiana State.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Jason. Hey, I got to say thank you to one other person. My assistant this evening made sure that I was able to connect on this since I'm challenged informationally, technology-wise, and my assistant, Leah Williams, made sure that I have been able to get on this webcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leah.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks very much. And with that, in closing, I just want to share a few more photos of the grounds, our fabulous Pike House. It still just slays me to say Pike House. I hope you do make plans to visit on Founders Day or Super Homecoming 2018, or just swing by anytime you're in the area. There will always be a brother there, and you will certainly be welcome. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, bula bula.
In the